I came from that place where I had everything figured out. I had the routine figured out. I had life figured out. I had family. I had everything figured out. That was in my 30s, 2 kids later with my husband, and everything seemed to be how life should be for any young woman, typical African woman, where you're married, you've got your children, and life seemed to be on track. However, life has got its own way of really disrupting that comfort, that routine. And for me, it meant one thing: either to stay and settle or to keep moving. Part and parcel, I've shared it continuously in my videos, but I thought, well, I'll do this video specifically to reflect on why I left all that comfort, why I left everything that I knew, from the people that I knew, from the church that I went to, from everything that I was trying to make sense out of, I was trying to build. All the support around me, I had to leave that behind to start all over abroad. And for most people, and one of the questions that I get asked most times is really about career. I had gone into an apprenticeship into engineering when I was 18, done that for 4 years, started working for a big organization, multinational organization, one of the big companies, thriving companies in Zimbabwe. For those that know, Tonga Yulet is one of the dream organizations to work for. But I had worked for that organization. I had tried all of that. And I think there comes a time when you really need to move. You really need to start all over again. And I'll share in this video how I came about that decision and how I have been finding it, because it hasn't been as smooth, but it was necessary. And I know, I do remember when I first mentioned it to a few people that were close to me. These were people that really looked up to me, people that really looked at my life and all that I had and all that life was giving me. A few good examples is the fact that I was living in a company provided accommodation, which was quite comfortable. We didn't have any bills to pay. We didn't have any rent to pay, which someone living in an economy like Zimbabwe, or for any young adult with a young family, that is a dream. And it's a luxury that you can never find if you go and live abroad. Then definitely that ceases, because bills will be waiting for you. But we left all of that to just what I will explain in this video as I continue to share with you my journey living abroad, my journey having left all of that to start abroad. What that meant was me living a career that I'd worked so hard to achieve. I'd done so many courses. I was on course to something really. I enjoyed what I was doing. It seemed to provide a dream career path in engineering for a young woman. However, I left that to come to the UK and do care. So that's what I'll be reflecting on and sharing with you in this very intimate and personal video today. So grab a chair, grab a cuppa, and let's dive into my story, my reflection of how I left all that comfort and had to start all over again in the UK. Starting all over was the best decision I've ever done in my life. When I say it was the best thing I've ever done in my life, it doesn't mean that it was an easy decision to make. It doesn't mean I had everything figured out. However, it's only now, 3 years later, in my 4th year living abroad, that I do realize this was the best thing I've ever done for myself, for my family, and for my career as well. Of course, when I look at everything and when I compare all the support that I had around me, all the comfort, sometimes there comes a point in life, and I'm glad that point came quite early for me. I was only 32 when I relocated from Zimbabwe. There comes a time in life when you do realize that if I stay in this comfort, it won't offer me the growth that I need. Instead, I'm going to shrink, or instead, I'm going to have standard growth where I will go in circles and circles, be it circles of just acquiring qualifications, but without anything materializing. Believe you me, I think I was at that point where I kept on saying, if I did this course, then probably I'm eyeing that promotion. If I do this course, it will open this door for me. But I guess for as long as I was in that place, I would never get that fulfillment. I would never get the growth that I would desire or that would make sense to me. But I didn't have it figured out then. I just knew probably that it was time to move. I think I've shared this in one of my videos where I said I stayed in that job for 7 years. I was working as a contract worker. In my own view, I worked so hard, and I always take the time to reflect on all the appraisals that I had within that organization, all the compliments, all the emails that I would get from my superiors and the people that we serviced, the clients that we serviced. Beautiful, amazing feedback. However, I stayed a contract worker for 7 years. And I always love to share this with people because this is something that I never got the time to explain back then, that what it meant working as a temporary worker or as a contract worker meant I would not contribute to any pension whatsoever. I would not access any financial aid from financial institutions such as banks. What that meant was, in as much as I was working for a prestigious organization, I was earning a substantial amount, I would not access loans from banks. So what that meant was, even if I wanted to do a project, even if I wanted to invest into building a retirement home for me and my family, that was wasted in the 7 years that I worked because I never got to access the financial aid that I needed. Instead, in that period, in those 7 years that I was working as a contract worker, I kept trying. I remember when I enrolled for my Sitting Girls diploma in refrigeration and air conditioning, I thought, well, I'll do this course and upgrade, probably to add something onto my CV that would make my employer to notice that I was ready for the next stage, that I was ready and I was taking my career seriously. But nothing really materialized. After that, I went on to study like a diploma in project management. I enjoyed that. I loved that. But all of this, I was doing it with the hope that probably I would add value to what I was doing within this organization. However, sometimes when you stay in a place for a long time, you become the desperate ones. They don't become the desperate ones. So instead, as my family was growing, and this is something that I've realized, I don't know, you can put it in the comments what you feel. Mostly as families grow, or the more children you have, the more you want to settle, the more organizations or HRA departments would view you as someone who will stay, because you cannot be consistently be on the move if you've got children. So probably that made them really relax, even when it came to pushing for a permanent role or a more long-term contract as far as my position was concerned. So I think this move was very necessary. Probably a little bit too late, I don't know, but I'm glad I made the move. I'm glad I left all of that. A lot of people would look at it and go like, well, but you left a career in engineering. Why didn't you move to another country with the same career, or why didn't you pursue that same career or that career pathway? For me, at that time, it was either I moved then or I wasn't going to move at all. So I looked at the opportunities that were around me, and thank goodness this opportunity to relocate to the UK as a caregiver presented itself at the right time when I needed it the most. Of course, it had its own downside, but when I look at it now, 4 years later, I think it was the best decision I could have ever made for me, for my family, and for my future, for our future. I lost a lot of things when I decided to relocate, when I decided to start all over again, when I decided I was going to move away from all the familiarity that I had known my whole life. I lost all the familiar faces that I knew, all the comfort, all the support that I had, the everyday support, be it from family, be it from colleagues, be it from people that I grew up with. I lost all of that. However, there's something that I discovered along the way, which I consider to have been the best decision ever I would have made for myself in my adult life. I discovered who I was truly when all the things that I leaned on consistently and persistently was gone. I self-discovered who I was as a wife, as a partner, discovered who I was as a parent. One of the most difficult things in the diaspora is to raise children in the diaspora. I must say every day is a learning curve. Raising my 2 girls on our own abroad. One of the things that we are not so privileged is because we live in the north and most of our family live down south, so we don't have much family surrounding us, which makes it even more difficult raising kids abroad. We have to rely on each other. My husband and I, we have to work around the kids' schedule and make it work. And we have been making it work. No wonder why I'm saying in this video that I discovered the other side of me that I didn't realize. I discovered what it meant really to be partners in a marriage. And I think that's a subject for another day, and I will share in one of the videos that I shall make in the future how we are navigating that. My husband and I raising 2 children in the diaspora, a whole totally different culture in which we're raising our children, how we are doing that without losing ourselves, and also without depriving our children of that which they could benefit from being raised in this environment. So that will be for another day. But what I'm just driving at is the fact that I discovered who I was when all my support is not there, when all that I lean on when I need it is not there. I discovered so much strength that I had that I don't think I would have known I had if I had stayed in the same place. There's so many things that I'm learning every day, things about myself, things about my partner, because now that we have to rely on each other, there are things that I'm getting to know, getting to discover that I don't think if we were still surrounded or if we had still stayed in the same environment, I would have known. So it still remains the best decision that I've ever made, really, relocating, starting all over again, and pursuing a whole different career altogether. And when I do say this was the best decision I've ever made in my life, it doesn't mean there were no struggles or there are no struggles. Struggles are still there. This is still early days. We are in our 4th year now living abroad, and in pursuing this career, there have been so many instances where I felt like, oh my God, I felt like giving up. I felt like I want to go back home. There are times when your resilience is tested, when your faith is tested, when your strength and your mental health is tested. That's how it is each time that you start all over again. Each time that you decide to pursue something, there are always challenges along the way. However, we have faced them head on. We have navigated them with so much faith and hope and curiosity to say, right, I chose this and I want to make it work. And believe you me, it's been a beautiful experience altogether. Some of the things that we have had to go through is understanding new systems, be it at work, be it at home, be it with our kids, be it with the immigration system whatsoever. So many changes have come about. And believe you me, because I do talk about it all the time, does not mean I'm immune to all the anxiety, to all the curiosity, to all the depression. When it does hit so hard some days that you just sit and cry and begin to see regret kicking in. But we've always fought so hard to find a way to deal with it. And while it's doing that, I've discovered amazing strength that I never knew I had, amazing mental strength, physical strength, emotional strength that I never knew I had. And you get tested from so many angles because you are in a different environment altogether. Your support is not around you. Familiarity is not around you. That is what comes with starting all over again, especially in a foreign space, in a different space altogether. But I'm doing it and I've got no regrets whatsoever, because it's been a journey of self-discovery. It's been a journey of building the person that I want to be in the future, the person that I want to be for me, the person that I want to be for my children, for my family. And part and parcel of what we are building and what gives us hope every day is we are building a future that we want, a future that we've always dreamed for our family, a future that is filled with opportunities for our children, a future that is filled with choices for them in terms of career, in terms of what they want to pursue, and a future that is filled with exposure above everything, a future where they can dream and explore their dreams, a future that offers them. That's the one thing that really keeps us going when the tough gets going. One of the very things that nobody really tells you is the fact that when you decide to start all over again, it's not a reflection of failure. It's not because you've failed to cope where you've been. One thing that I've discovered, especially with my journey, is the fact that starting all over again is redirection. It's a sign that God is saying to you, there is more about you. There is more for you that you haven't seen with your own eyes, that you haven't experienced, that you haven't had with your own eyes, that I want to explore with you, that I want to lead you to. And one of the things that really stood out one of the things that really keeps me going is the fact that I personally decided I was going to trust God with this journey. I was going to trust God with starting all over again. I wanted him to start all over with me, start all over with my family, in a different place, in a different space altogether. And believe you me, I found so much meaning against the odds, against all the things that I was raised to believe that life should be about pursuing money. Instead, I discovered that it's about pursuing purpose. It's about pursuing inner fulfillment. I had the opportunity to work in that job that would have given me so much money, made me so rich, but it didn't give me that. Instead, I am in a career that gives me the inner fulfillment, in a career that gives me the inner peace, in a career that gives me purpose when I see someone smiling, when I know I've done for someone something that they wouldn't have done for themselves. It sort of has shifted my mindset from believing we go into careers for money, we go into careers for enriching our pockets, but instead we go into careers to find purpose, to find long-term fulfillment, and to offer service to others. That is what starting all over has given me. This would have, in my wildest dreams, I wouldn't have seen myself doing and finding joy and purpose living far away from home. But I must say, I took the leap of faith and started all over again, and it's really starting to pay off now. As I reflect on this whole journey, I see God's purpose. I see God's hand in each and every step, in each and every delay, in each and every obstacle that I faced along the way. Probably if I had not been in that job for 7 years as a contract worker, I wouldn't have ended up where I am. So I see how God has crafted my life. God has woven each and every step of my career to suit his purpose and plan for me and for my family. That's all I can say. And me starting all over again in a different place, in a different career altogether, was his purpose and his plan for what he has in store for me going forward. There is all the small wins along the way, and I always take the time to celebrate the small wins and reflect on them and see them as a hope for the bigger things that God has in store for me. I'll give you a few examples of the small wins. I said, where I worked, everything could have been provided for. You just get into a job, the house is provided for you. But I must say, coming to a new country, really fighting so hard through the application process, interview process to really land my first job abroad was really a huge win for me. I know for some it doesn't seem as huge a win, but for me that was a big win. Not to mention when, finding our own space to live in, somewhere where we can pay for. Oh God, that's another win. And I do remember when I got my first car, that was a huge thing. I had to ring my pastor, I had to ring everybody because that was the first car in my name. For some, it's something very simple, but I'd never owned a car before. I'd never had a car that I call my own before. So some of the small wins that come with really starting all over again. And I do remember having to make friends, having to build a community, and part and parcel of those small wins is really having to start this space, this YouTube channel, my own YouTube channel where I share my experiences. Not an easy task, but I'm doing it and I feel a sense of I'm onto something. Why? Because I do feel if I was still back home, if I was still doing what I would do, I don't think I would have had the courage to start this, a courage to share my story, a courage to inspire others through my own journey. I don't think I would have done it. So I see a lot of growth. I see a win when I do what I love, when I do share my experiences. I've seen amazing growth in confidence, amazing growth in self-awareness and self-reliance, and above everything, reliance on God. So for me, that's a huge win. And one of the wins that I always share with others, those that know me and talk to me on a daily basis, they know one of the biggest wins for me is saying I am okay and really mean it. Because there are times when you do struggle, when you feel stretched, when you feel like giving up, and then you just go, I'm okay, and you really figure out your next step. So for me, those are the small wins that I do celebrate. Even when it seems like nothing is happening, I know deep inside each and every step that I take, each and every decision that I do make whilst living abroad, whilst living away from all the comfort I know, is contributing towards growth. Patiently, something is happening deep inside. There is growth, there is purpose, there is transformation going on, and I do celebrate that each and every day. What makes it the best decision really is that I have begun to celebrate progress and not perfection. So each and every step that I take is quite intentional and purposeful. I've learned not to compare my year one or my day one to someone's 20 years, what the next person has achieved versus what I have achieved, because I have come to realize that my journey is unique. My journey is specially bespoke to me, specially designed for me, specially designed to intertwine my journey into God's plan. So those are some of the things that I've learned along the way. I've learned to give myself grace in everything that I do, in every step that I take, in every failure that I meet, every stumbling block that I meet along the way. I've learned to give myself grace. I've learned to reflect on my strengths, on my weaknesses, on what makes my journey so special and unique. And that has carried me a long way. It has taught me to generally be patient with myself, be patient with my journey, be patient with my transformation and growth. Many people would want to know what keeps me going. There are 3 things that really drives me and keeps me going. This is God, faith, and family. Those things have been my anchor and my strength around everything. I do remember when I would feel lost, when I would feel like I'm just heading for darkness, God has been lighting my way each and every day, each and every step of the way. There are times when you feel like, I think I'm losing it. I think I'm losing grip. Be it work-wise, be it in terms of everything. Life in general abroad can try you from all angles, and I'm not immune to that. But God has been my light. God has been a lamp unto my feet, as he says in Psalms. Above everything, when I felt tested in every area, when career wasn't going according to plan, I've shared in previous videos my journey of how I started in domiciliary and now I work in the hospital. There are times when I felt my faith has really kept me grounded. When I would feel I'm crumbling inside, I'm dying inside, my faith has been my biggest anchor. And when my family has been my biggest motivation. When I feel like quitting, when I feel like packing my bags and going back home, and I look at my children, I feel motivated. When I look at my husband and the support that he has given me, the faith that he has in me and in all that I do, and the way he supports me really keeps me going. And no wonder why I'm so grateful I have them. I'm so grateful for their support. I'm so grateful for each and every minute that I get to spend with them. Because sometimes even with them not saying anything, it's strength enough to know that they're there for me, to know that they've walked this journey with me. Especially when I look at how far my husband and I have come, there isn't a single thing that we didn't do together. From the time when we were preparing back home, from the time when we were trying to relocate to other countries, he's been there all the way, supporting me, being with me, being there, doing this journey with me. So that has been assurance enough that even now that we are here, even when we face so many challenges, immigration-wise, work-wise, I know he's my biggest supporter, my biggest cheerleader, and he's been amazing at that job. And even when I doubt the journey, I got the assurance that God is going to walk. If he has walked with me before, if he's walking with me now, he will walk with me in the future. No matter how dark it may seem, his plans are for my good. His plans are for the good of my family. And that really keeps me going with reassurance, with strength and hope and everything that I would need to go forward. If you have been watching this video and you're in your season of starting all over again, there are things that I really want to assure you. There are things that I want to tell you. The fact that you're not late, the fact that you're not making a mistake, the fact that you are not lost. Instead, you are building towards something that is beautiful. I've been there. I've done that. I've even doubted myself at some point. But now, 4 years later, into starting something new all over again, I do realize it was the best decision I've made in my life. It might seem as though maybe the timing is off. It might seem as if you should have done this in your 20s. But I've learned that God's timing is the best. Nothing can beat God's timing. He knows why you had to start in your 40s. He knows why you had to start in your 30s. He knows why you didn't start when everyone started. He knows why you didn't do it when everyone else was doing so. Don't feel any other way. Don't regret why you are starting. Instead, keep going. Instead, keep building. Instead, keep walking, keep moving towards whatever thing that you're starting all over again. It could be life abroad, it could be a business, it could be a different career altogether. One day you shall say, starting all over was the best decision that I've ever made. Because now, 4 years later, I am in that season where I'm saying starting all over was the biggest, best thing I've ever done for myself, for my family, and for my children. So that's all I had for you in this video. If you know somebody who is in their starting all over season, please do share this video with them so that they get motivated, they get encouraged from my story to keep believing, to keep going, to keep becoming, because the future is brighter. God's plan at the end of the day is for our best. God's plan always prevails. That's all I had for you in this video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye for now.